beyond. We're back.
We are. You may or may not have expected us.
Yeah, well, whether you did or did not, hello and welcome to yet another episode of Cookie Pocket. This podcast is about film. I'm joined by Zach and Mitchell, as always. I'm Christian. It is great to, well, I don't get to interact with you, but it's great that you get to interact with us.
Hey.
We'll take questions at the end.
Yes.
Yeah. This is not quite a season debut, per se. The impetus for this gathering is the release of another Batman film, The Batman, directed and
Lion
written
King
by-
2.5.
Woo. Yes, helmed by Matt Reeves of Planet of the Apes prequel, sequel excellence, and Cloverfield, what have you. We may discuss that at a point in the future. And Robert Pattinson is doing his thing as an emo Bruce, and we'll get into that. But let's start it how we always start it. Try to get back into the groove here. Ratings out of 5. General thoughts.
Well, should I go
Get in there,
first?
Zach.
Okay.
Yep.
Time to get out your eggs and tomato, folks, because I liked this film. But for me, this is only a 3 out of 5, which means it was good, and I did enjoy it a lot. But there were things in it that I thought were lacking. I really liked the first 2 acts, because the first 2 acts, I think, deliver on what was promised by Matt Reeves, by the marketing, by the production crew, which was a really focused, kind of smaller scale, detective-style Batman movie, sort of in the style of like Zodiac or Seven. But then where I start to not like it as much is that 3rd act, where I think everything kind of blows up, it gets way bigger, it turns into kind of like a typical Batman movie ending that you would have seen in like the Dark Knight trilogy. And I think that, although I didn't dislike that ending, I don't think it really meshes with the lower key vibe that was established in the first 2 acts, and to me it felt like it kind of took something away from the story, and I wasn't as keen on it. It was still good, I still enjoyed it, still a 3 out of 5, but I thought that there was something more that could have been done with that setup and could have been done with this cast and crew and this idea, and I didn't think it was kind of executed to its fullest extent by the climax and ending that we got.
Interesting.
Boo! Boo!
Boo me, yes.
I'm just kidding, Zach. I respect your opinion.
Thank you.
I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I went out and read every single Batman comic. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't. But I know Zach didn't read freaking Detective Comics number 66 or Year 1 or Earth 1. Or,
I have read Year 1.
Long Halloween.
I have read Long Halloween.
You named the one that he read.
I really like Long Halloween, and this reminded me of Long Halloween in the first 2 acts, which is part of why I liked it a lot.
He didn't play the games.
No, I didn't play the games.
But we did watch Mask of the Phantasm.
We did.
Yeah. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. What? That's crazy. Yeah, I was expecting this to be really good, and I was happy because that turned out to be true. And yeah, I mean, it's literally just like CSI Gotham City, and for the first 2 acts, and I very much appreciated that. Like, big boy Batman just standing around awkwardly trying to figure out stuff is exactly what I wanted to see. And you know, Gotham PD being all mad about him existing is equally as fun. And then, you know, just finding out all the corruption and having, like, you know, Riddler be, like, accurate about a lot of the reasons why he's so PO'd and acting out. Is kind of, it's all of it is just Hallmark, you know, DC, like Hallmark, you know, Batman and his villains type thing in Gotham, and I think that's just, I mean, it's hard to put into words how amazing it is to see on screen, honestly. And I mean, it's you know, there's always going to be props to Nolan and the way that he kind of approached it with this realism, but I feel like the best thing that this film does is it approaches the realism and the comic book kind of fakeness of it at the exact, like, perfect angle.
I do
where
agree
you kind of
with that.
get both.
Definitely.
Yeah, and Gotham feels like an entirely new city. You know, this Batman feels, you know, pretty new, like as new as you would expect, pretty much. And it shies away from the origin story because in favor of kind of not even just telling us about it, but using it as kind of a launch board to accelerate it to all sorts of directions by the end. And I do see what Zach's saying. Obviously, we'll talk about it, but I mean, I do feel like that's kind of a part of what happens with Batman figuring things out. It kind of turns into a regular show episode where everything kind of just starts going insane. And honestly, it also allows Riddler and to fully flesh out, and he kind of becomes the total Zodiac killer. And I really feel like that works perfectly with modern day, and he's a totally believable like serial killer and mastermind in real life. You could totally imagine, obviously not blowing up the city and flooding it, but but yeah.
Before we go much further, I do think we should establish for our listeners that there are going to be a ton of spoilers in this discussion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
since this is a recent movie, so
Yeah.
If you don't want to be spoiled and haven't seen the movie, run away and come back later. But
Yeah, especially given the nature of this plot is very much a detective story where
yes.
where like discovering new information is a point of suspense for the viewer. Yes.
Yeah.
This
Sorry to
is
interrupt.
The answer to today's Wordle is Batman. Wait, okay. No, that's 6 letters. All right.
El
Anyway,
Radalada.
4 El Radalada. But yeah, yep, 4.5 out of 5. The only real thing I have an issue with, and it's not even like a glaring issue, and it's not even something that can really be fixed, is it just feels kind of tonally one note, and I do understand that that's the point. However, I do feel like it lingers long enough where it can be an annoyance for some people, and I totally understand that. Is really the only thing I have an issue with. So, 4.5 out of 5. We'll get into the nitty-gritty, gory details soon.
I think that is a succinct account that I very much agree with, Mitchell. And I understand the one note thing too, but for me, that happens to be my favorite note. So I gave this a 5 out of 5. For me, this is one of the 5 out of 5s where I gave it a 5 out of 5 because there's nothing that I would change personally. I like all of the decisions that were made here. There's so much I want to say about this that I'm having difficulty deciding where to start, but I guess I'll start with the ending, Zach, because you pointed that out. It works for me, and I definitely understand the aversion to a sort of action-heavy ending, but given that we spend like a solid 2 hours and 20 minutes or so just doing detective work, except for an excellent Batmobile chase, and like an opening skirmish outside a metro that lasts like 30 seconds. And is that it? There might be one other. I'm not sure. Besides the stadium.
General confrontations outside like the club and stuff like that. But
Yeah. So I mean that is even given our ending, which is maybe like 10-15 minutes of action. With plenty of cuts to Gordon on the ground and Selena milling about and what have you. I think that's a remarkably low clip of action for any superhero film, and maybe they didn't have to do much for me after. I feel like every Marvel movie ends in not just an action spectacle, but like a really CGI heavy, like monster thing or something. Like I watched Shang-Chi a little while ago, and I was a little underwhelmed. And the ending was like this: all these like CGI dragons show up, and it's like and so I really love the grounded feel. I think Pattinson is. I said as much in my Letterboxd review. I think he is Batman first and Bruce Wayne second, and I think that makes the most sense for the character. I loved Christian Bale. I don't know. I think Pattinson might be my new favorite. I'm still weighing it, but I think Bale and Affleck and Keaton, like reflecting on all of them, I think they Conroy, of course, love Conroy. They give Bruce. I almost think of it as like a Bruce Banner Hulk type balance where they're constantly warring with each other. Obviously, it's not as like scientific and self-evident as that inner battle, but I feel like Bruce is maybe given too much power in the previous installments, and it's really nice to see Batman. It's nice to see Batman broken. It's nice to see Bruce suffering. Yeah, so I don't know. Did you guys like Pattinson? Were you favorable to his approach?
I did like Pattinson. I do think after so much fuss back and forth between, like, would he make a good Batman? Would he make a good Bruce Wayne? No, he was in Twilight. Yes, he was in Good Time and The Lighthouse. Watch these movies, Christian. After all that fuss...
I did watch those movies.
You did, yes. After all that fuss, though, I think he was just fine. Like, one of my issues with this film is it has a fantastic cast, but at the same time, I don't really know if it demands all that much from its cast members. So yes, everybody does a great job. Nobody in this gives a bad performance. But I don't really know if this is a role, or dual role, however you want to phrase it, that really asks that much of Robert Pattinson. When he's on screen, I believe him. I think he looks good in the Batsuit. I think he is convincing as Batman. But it's not necessarily a part where I'm like, I'll bet he really had to sink his teeth into that.
I liked him a lot. I think here comes the inevitable Star Wars comparison. I was talking with some friends about it, and I likened his approach to Hayden Christensen's. Not to say that they're equal in quality. Let me finish. In the sense that he's playing this like awkward man boy type that is not really capable of expressing his emotions in a way that is, familiar to what the audience sees in their lived experience. And I think that really comes through. This came through for me on the second watch. I went and saw this twice, dear viewer. And it's in the scene after Alfred is recovering from Riddler's bomb that was intended for Bruce. And Bruce is incapable of directly telling Alfred that he loves him. So instead, he gives this sort of rambly, like almost like embarrassed and pathetic speech, where he talks about how he never thought he would have to experience the fear again of losing someone that he loved, and it's obvious. And he's looking at Alfred, and he's like 5 steps away from telling Alfred how much he means to him, but he can't do it. And so Alfred just like extends his hand, and Bruce takes it. And I see what you're saying there, Zach, because there's not like, I don't think there's a ton of overacting going on, or
no.
And Circus certainly doesn't need to do anything as bizarre and outlandish as he does in The Hobbit or The Apes. But
No!
But the moment is
that
there.
Alone. Yeah.
I see that as masterful filmmaking. Like, there's nothing I would change to enhance that moment, even if it doesn't demand more than from the performers.
Yeah. I think some moments like that are made more in the direction and the editing than in the performances, though, if that makes sense. It comes down to the old Kuleshov experiment of, like, if you show a neutral face at just the right time, it comes to mean something else to the audience based on the pacing of the scene and what you show before it and things like that. Very well edited film. I think it's entirely solid. It's just no aspect of it really, like, wowed me like some other films have.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do kind of feel like the bar is on the lower side, but, I mean, I feel like part of that is probably because this is based off of characters that already exist. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And there's also a ton of bazillion other instances of these characters existing, too. So there is kind of a lot based off of assumption, kind of like what I was saying about knowing that Bruce's parents are dead is kind of like a given. Like, you don't really need to like act that out or have him figure out that that's like a thing. Like, we don't really need that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I guess I kind of agree, but I do kind of feel like it fits the narrative that Reeves is kind of trying to construct here. And I also feel like I agree that it's probably the editing and a lot of the cinematography that's kind of perfectly well framed, like 95% of the time, probably, when they're talking. And I feel like Robert Pattinson has the right face. I'm gonna counter Kirk Douglas's face and say that I like Robert Pattinson's face, and maybe it's because I tried to do a celebrity match thing and it said it looked me I looked kind of like him, so I'm just gonna go with that.
Huh.
I don't think so.
I see the jawline a little bit.
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah. I'm not sparkly. It's okay. There was a moment early on where I saw the sparkly man for a second.
Oh, really?
He looked a little bit concerned, and his eyebrows were slightly down. I was like, yep, Yep, he's talking to Bella right now, and that's what I thought for like 0.2 seconds. And that was a good thing because I really like Twilight. All right, I'm gonna defend Twilight
Wow.
Wow.
to the end of time. Yep.
This is an
Maybe just the
interesting
first
development.
one. Yeah, but anyway, yep, Colin Farrell,
Wow. Yeah.
Dad, and we have experience with our boy from this podcast previously.
We do.
In Hearts War.
Yeah.
Hearts War, and he's a little bit different in this.
Yeah, no.
I liked when he waddled. That was the best part.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
And yeah.
I was just gonna say I saw this with two groups of friends, and both groups had no idea that was an actor wearing a ton of makeup. Like they fully assumed that they just got like a chunkier, less attractive dude in Hollywood. And when I googled Colin Farrell and showed him his quite handsome British face, they were quite stunned.
In it.
So something that I do feel like we should bring up here, though, is I was discussing with our past guest Dylan from the Bargain Binge podcast
Yes.
this film as well, and he mentioned Colin Farrell as Penguin and the waddling moment and how that was amusing. But we kind of came down to the issue of like, did they really need Colin Farrell to play the Penguin in this movie, especially since he doesn't really look like himself at all. And there's nothing to me about the performance that really says Colin Farrell. I mean, he does a good job. It's a good performance as the Penguin. But I think the question comes down to, did you need to get Colin Farrell and put a ton of makeup on his face? Or could you have potentially gotten somebody who just kind of looked more like the role that they were trying to cast? I think it's an interesting question.
Like, bring Danny DeVito back.
Bring Danny DeVito back.
I don't think Danny DeVito belongs in this Gotham at all. I think he's fantastic. It's Always Sunny has been an extremely, extremely guilty pleasure of mine.
He sees Falcone, so anyway, I started blasting.
I'll be the trash man. I'll throw garbage everywhere.
I'm glad we got our DeVito.
Did he?
in earlier.
You know what, Zachary? I don't know, but he did, and he did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
Get out of
Yeah.
my house.
No.
I don't think it's a question with a single answer, but I did think it was an interesting question to ask.
I gotta side with Mitchell here. I understand where you're coming from, but to me, it all boils down to: did he do a good job? Yes, he did. Okay, then yeah, he was a good choice. Sorry.
Will you be my date to prom?
Yes, no.
Maybe.
But Mitchell, you
No,
also
no,
mentioned something
Yes.
that I wanted to bring up, which was that these characters are based on like pre-existing comic books, and I thought that was kind of a good jumping off point to mention that this is not my favorite Batman movie. For me, nothing is ever going to beat Batman Returns, and I understand that might be an unpopular opinion, but it's the one that I hold. But I will say, of all the Batman movies that have been made, this is the one that looks and feels most like the experience of reading a Batman comic to me. For better and for worse. That comes down to, like, it goes on maybe a little bit too long. The ending is maybe a little bit too big for the rest of the plot. But good things as well. Like, visually, this really reminds me of a comic book. A lot of scenes are lit with only, like, two primary colors. Or, like, there's a lot of scenes where most of, like, a room is lit in sort of this cool blue moonlight effect, and then we have tungsten lights in the room on, like, the characters. And that to me really feels like kind of a simplified, illustrated style that you would see in some Batman comic books. So I think, to me, this felt like a comic more than any of the previous Batman movies. More than Nolan's, especially. Obviously, that wasn't really what Nolan was going for in his films, but I think more than the Burton Schumacher ones as well. Even though I do definitely enjoy those older films too.
Yeah, I appreciate those stylistic jumps, and I'm grateful for how different all of these separate directors' visions are. But I think, I mean, knowing next to nothing about lighting and film, I think it's commendable that this entire movie feels like it's either at night or there's like barely any light coming through this like perpetually overcast smog feeling city, but it's never like, I feel like sometimes this might be more of a TV problem, but I feel like sometimes when a show or a film is going for a really gritty dark aesthetic, they take it too far and it's there are points where it becomes legitimately difficult for the viewer to perceive what is going on in front of them.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder. But that was never an issue for me here, which was nice. Thank you, Matt. Very cool.
And I do have to say, I watched Dawn of the Planet of the Apes last night.
I saw that.
That's how you really prepare a brain. And there was, in terms of the lighting, I could tell that Reeves was like, it's about to be daytime. You can't do daytime. Sorry. There's no daytime. It's raining? Holy crap. It's freaking raining, guys. Everyone get the cameras out. We got to look at this. Get up in that. Look at that. Look at that CGI.
Well,
Andy, go yell something really loud and we're going to film you for 2 minutes while you're looking all frustrated talking to the humans. And that totally works.
Yeah.
It totally works. And then there's like one time where it's cloudy and it's just exactly like what's it called? The Batman.
Yes, that is what the movie is called.
Well, that might be a good jumping off point. Did we want to discuss Matt Reeves' previous work and in comparison to this? I thought you would kind of tease that at the beginning of this discussion.
Well,
Christian.
you're
Keep
certainly
the C
welcome
word.
to. But I wanted to talk about the C word, actually. I heard you say CGI, and I was like, I want to spend like a minute
No,
or two
I meant
that.
the movie.
Oh, that C word. Okay.
I thought you meant...
Well, aren't we
Yeah.
gonna do that one maybe?
We are going to do Cloverfield. Big reveal. We're doing Cloverfield.
Okay, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Sometime.
The bomb
Maybe
has been
season
dropped.
7, 8. Yep. Bane is about to blow up the stadium. I've hit WMDs in Iran. I'm sorry.
It's
Continue.
okay. It was funny.
We wanted to talk about CGI then, though?
Yes.
Yes.
No, I don't know. And I dislike that I keep comparing to Marvel. And I'm not a CGI hater, obviously. I watch the prequels for fun all the time. I am the biggest George Lucas apologist you probably know. I think CGI is useful and often a mark of good filmmaking in certain places and what have you. But and I know that this film is not absent of CGI, but I know that I could not notice it like 98% of the time. I think there's one shot where Bruce is like
He's swinging.
like rappelling down a like some sort of building, and it looks like that's like that was probably CGI, and I don't know, maybe like some of the final encounter when he's like dangling might have been CGI. But other than that, I don't think there were any moments that I personally noticed. Did it ever stick out to you guys?
Well,
No.
I mean, that's what I was thinking of. I mean, in the film, about midway through, I was like, because I know that they constructed like massive blocks of like original like Gotham City on the Warner Brothers backlot to film this, which I like because I think the Batman movies always work better when they kind of build their own Gotham. One of my complaints about the Nolan movies is it kind of just feels like Chicago. But like halfway through, I was like, I can't tell what's CG in this. Like they definitely complemented this with CG, but I can't really tell. The only place I could tell was that climax and that third act where I'm like, okay, the stadium is flooding. Like we're definitely doing CG here. And there are some shots where he's kind of dangling off of the, I don't know what that structure is, like the lighting grid over the top of the stadium, where I was like, that kind of looks like a blue screen shot to me. When it gets bigger is where the CG becomes more obvious to me. But for the most part, like in places throughout where they definitely like complemented the car chase or complemented wide shots of Gotham, I could not really tell.
Yeah, I'd call that a feat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we go like all GoPro on the car chase is probably like the best, one of the best car chases I think I've ever seen. Probably like top 10.
And
I don't know how many car chases there are, but
Matt Reeves mentioned Christine in some of the marketing as like a vibe that he wanted to go for with the Batmobile, and I think he totally got that. Right down to how it just kind of sits there like revving up, like it's growling before it drives out.
When I was in the theater, I was like,
I
felt like I should be hearing like John Carpenter chords in the background.
Yeah. I got so hyped, guys. I had to I had to contain myself because I was with friends.
I was like, get him.
Oh, yes. Zach, I know you had some reservations about what's her face? Zoe Kravitz. A long time ago. I don't know. I don't even know if this was post trailer or post casting announcement. And I know you're very partial to Michelle Pfeiffer, understandably. But
Okay, I've been sold out. But
own it. Damn it.
I do like the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman. I think she, both in terms of like how that character looks, how she moves, how she acts, I think that's the best version of Catwoman we might ever get, possibly. But I think Zoe Kravitz did a good job in this. I guess after the first trailer, I was a little unsure, but I think she was good. I don't really know that much about Selena Kyle's backstory. I was not aware that any version of the character was related to Don Falcone. I don't know if that's something they just came up with for this movie. But I thought that was a fine way to give her more motivation within the plot. Like, I'm okay with that. The only thing that really bugged me about her was her acrylic nails, which she has these really long like nails in the movie that are meant to be her own fingernails. Like, they go through the ends of her gloves. Like, she has them in the club. Like, they're clearly meant to be like, this is just what I do out and about, and I do it when I'm doing cat burglary as well. And I was like, don't those get in the way? How do you crack safes with those?
You know, it's so funny.
How do you fight with those? Those are gonna break.
I'm gonna say, before everyone says we're all thinking Zach's obviously a sexist, I was gonna say that you can't shoot a pistol with those nails, okay? Unless you have like your finger. I literally said this in the theater. I was like, you can't put your like finger in there and pull the trigger and keep it. You have to keep it in there. It makes no sense. I was like, this is 1 out of 5. This is ridiculous.
And obviously that's just a small thing, but it really distracted me. Where every time they showed her nails, I was like, don't those get in the way? Like,
yeah.
That is not the answer I expected to get. I'll take it. That's hilarious.
Michelle Pfeiffer's nail. Oh my god! Don't even talk.
Michelle Pfeiffer doesn't even have long nails. She has the sewing thing she puts on the end of her gloves. And to me, that's like, okay, they're like claws. She scratches people with them. She doesn't scratch people with her actual fingernails.
Well, I'll confess to knowing less about the technical specifications of acrylic fingernails. But, I mean, I think that Kravitz had maybe the hardest job of some, because her dialogue, I think, really leaned into like the comic bookiness of like really hard, like Bruce is like, don't throw your life away, Selena. And she's like, don't worry, I got 9 of them.
Honey.
Yuck, yuck. A few other moments like that, but I mean, and it never feels overplayed, and Pattinson is a very nice little like bass line for her to play off of. So I think I was impressed. And I hope I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't know if you guys have heard about these HBO Max spin-offs, but as of now, they're Zach says, "Oh no, they're planning a."
I haven't.
I think the plan, as of now, is a Penguin spin-off, and an Arkham focused spin-off, and then there have been rumors about a Catwoman thing, but nothing concrete.
See, I was gonna mention. All right, the reason I was worried when the second trailer came out. And it was like, oh, we're doing all these characters in this movie. We don't just have the Batman and the Riddler. We have Falcone and the Penguin, and we have Catwoman. And hey, guys, there might be a Joker. Like, and I was like, okay, is this going to be too much? And one of the reasons it didn't feel like too much was that this movie doesn't play them as like big deals. It doesn't play all these characters as like, and here's a villain. It's not like Batman Forever or something like that, where it's like, Gotham has a new villain in town, it's the Two-Face. It's just, the characters are there, and they exist within the world. And that's why it didn't feel like too much to me. I worry that if they start going off and making independent properties with all these different characters, it could start to feel overstuffed, if they do intend to do more things with this world and these characters. I worry that having too much of a focus on all of them as like villains or defined like characters who need their own like background and arcs in every single movie, I worry it could be too much.
Yeah,
I totally agree. I feel like a lot of this is gonna end up becoming kind of one-trick pony stuff, and especially with the character development, because I do feel like we don't really know how Pattinson's going to be if they keep using him and then he starts to develop. Maybe he'll come into it a little bit more. We don't really know. I mean, obviously, we've seen that happen before, and it's totally worked out fine. But, I mean, this is kind of like a shot, like in a certain, like a snapshot of a certain era kind of thing, where it feels like, you know, Zoe Kravitz is, even her Catwoman, she's still kind of like, after she does that comic bookiness, she starts to get all emotional and distracted and isn't really into the total femme fatale kind of like, you know,
Sure,
I'm just
sure.
walking around.
It's less of an
and
archetype.
being like,
Yeah.
I'm being sexual. I'm going to steal all your jewels now, kind of thing. And then, you know, and then Batman obviously isn't just like brooding and saying, you know, all that stuff. But I mean, I totally think it works for the film 100%. And I do like how she's kind of trying to be a little bit confident, but then she gets emotionally tied down, especially by that one girl, which she said her name like 50 times, and I still forgot her name.
Annika.
Annika.
I was going to go Ilyana, but yeah, Annika.
Yeah, and the contact lens scene, which by the way is a fantastic
So cool.
innovation.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
That contact lens thing is very close, like near, you know, pretty modern day, almost probably somewhere it is modern day, but I'm looking at you, Army. I know you're doing stuff. You have Iron Man somewhere, but yeah, I really think that scene worked great, and I feel like she was like, no, I gotta find Annika. Puts him in the thing, and he's like, no, stop it. Go back to the DA. Go back to the DA. Oh, yeah. I like that scene a lot, and it shows both of their character flaws very well, and it's totally believable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. I wanted to. I can't believe I forgot about the contact lens. Oh, that's such a useful tool. Yeah. And I've been scrolling Twitter a lot just on like Batman hashtag things, and some rando said something about realizing that Bruce isn't just like standing around moving slowly because he's awkward, but part of it's because he's probably like actually scanning the room and like taking in the faces and evidence, which is a nice touch.
I do like how little he speaks in the film, and I like how he is kind of an unmovable mass a lot of the time. Like Chris Stuckman pointed this out in his review, but like when he walks into the crime scene at the end, and the one guy's like, "Hey, this area's off limits," and he just kind of like looks at him, and then turns back. I really liked that. How like he doesn't have to say anything. He just kind of this intimidating force with the scene, which I think also ties into the kind of like, I am the night and people are afraid to come into contact with me thing, which I think is something that this movie does better than any other Batman movie, except maybe like the first 5 minutes of the first Tim Burton one. I think this, better than any other Batman movie, emphasizes that idea of like people are afraid of the shadows because they think I could be in them, which I think isn't pulled off nearly as well in any of the other films.
I agree, yeah. And I think what with the spin-offs, I think I tentatively agree with you guys. I think it's a tricky balance to strike, and there's always the possibility of too much too soon. And I like how, despite the familiarity I have with like Falcone and Penguin and Selena Kyle, they are like players in a detective story rather than these gargantuan comic book characters that need backstory and their own fight scenes and whatever. I think that Reeves has kind of set himself up with a bit of a challenge here, because I see this as like a near perfect detective story with a villain in Riddler that really can match Batman. Not just match Batman, but I think is demonstrably smarter than Batman. And the way that this plot, despite our maybe some of our misgivings about the action finale, this is almost 2.5 hours of pure detective story.
Yeah.
And we enjoy that stylistic choice, but a sequel is going to be, I think, an immense challenge, because Riddler's still alive and he's in Arkham. We know what happens when villains are in Arkham; they break out at some point. So, and we've got a giggly, unseen Arkham prisoner who's riffing with the Riddler and making jokes, and seems to be a match for his wit. And I am sitting here like, would it be fulfilling if the sequel is another 2 hours of detective work? I don't know. Maybe Reeves should have some freedom to dabble in the action aspects of Batman. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I love to see Detective Batman here. But what are your thoughts?
And you can't do Falcone Mr. Big from Zootopia again. Oh, Thomas Wayne. I'm glad you finally came to me. I need to tell you something.
Hippocratic.
You've disappointed me. Yeah. Yeah.
I do want to see if they do a sequel, because one of the things that also kind of bugged me about the third act of this movie, specifically the very end, was that Joker tease, where I was like, did we need it? Like, we've had enough Joker in the movies. Did we need to tease a sequel? Because I think for the most part, this stands really well as just a standalone movie. And I kind of miss movies that are just like, we're a movie, we're our own movie, we could be done, we'll see. And it kind of makes you interested in a sequel without actually telling you you're going to get one. But at the same time, in a sequel, I don't want to see the Riddler and the Joker in a sequel. Like, at least not a first sequel. Maybe if there's a third one, we bring them back in that one. But I'd like to see a sequel in which they do something totally different. There's a totally different kind of villain. Maybe it's a totally different kind of plot or a totally different kind of detective work. But I do want to see something different. One of my issues with Batman movies is that a lot of the time, at least in terms of how they cinematically adapt the villains, they kind of all get turned into the Joker or Joker clones, where they become these kind of giggly, manic, like, insane people. And I even kind of had an issue with that with the Riddler in this one, where for the most part, he was like a nailed down, like, Zodiac-style killer. But that third act, he starts the giggling, he starts the moaning, he starts the freaking out and the Jokerisms, and I'm like, we were avoiding this for so long. Like, can't we just have a villain that's different? In a sequel, I want to see a totally different kind of villain. Black Mask. Give me a totally, like, stoic, nailed down Black Mask that's a real, like, force against a kind of Batman that isn't a movable object. Give me a character that kind of matches that immovability and that stoicism. I think that could be really interesting. So I'm interested to see a sequel, maybe even a detective sequel, but I do want to see them do something different, and I don't think I want to see Dano and Kyoan as the Riddler and the Joker again just yet.
I feel like you do have to... It kind of sounds a little ridiculous coming from, like, an audience perspective, but I feel like trying to make a story without Joker somehow being involved early on is kind of bold, considering every other story.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree. I do feel like they didn't need to have Joker in it. But at the same time, I do understand kind of the expectation. I feel like the expectation is big enough where it justifies him being there, honestly. And I feel like if they make Joker different enough, if our boy from Dunkirk and 15 other things I don't care about.
Green Knight, he's so good in the Green Knight. Oh my God.
He's in the Green Knight. Okay.
Killing of a Sacred Deer.
In that thing. All right. What did I just say? So, I think I think it really depends on how they do him later. And I mean, it's just a tease, so it's not really that big of a deal. But I do see where you're coming from. I don't feel like it was absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
For sure.
The tease, was it necessary? No. Was it awesome? In my opinion, yes. Did people understand it? Even the people that have seen 2 or 3 comic book movies and are not fully acquainted with Batman, yes. So I think it is notable, just like that it has this post-credity fan bait feel to it, except because of the iconography of the character, it works, if not for everyone, then almost everyone. I think that's worth noting.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I will admit, in the theater that I was in, because I think theater reactions were interesting for me. But when that scene came up, the guy in the row in front of me went, and like stood up in his seat, and I went, ugh, and sat further back in my seat. But yeah, I had an interesting crowd for this one. My audience in the theater, like, giggled every time that Batman, like, wailed on somebody. Because there are scenes in this where he just, like, punches people into, like, a pulp against the ground, and people found that funny in my theater. It was weird.
Well, I'll say people in my theater giggled when Riddler was really going loopy, and I see it as less of an expression of comedy and more of like, I was actually talking on the phone with my parents because they saw it a day or so ago, and I said it's like It's like when a kid says something inappropriate in health class and they start laughing. It's not because it's funny. It's because they feel uncomfortable and they're trying to like make themselves feel less uncomfortable by making it, by diminishing it, by treating it like it's funny. So
same thing in my theater.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was kind of like, whoa, like that. That's kind of how I was reacting. Take it easy, sweetheart. That's how I was. When he was making the like the O face, you know, I'm trying to be. Nobody can see me. It's with the O with the lips, and then he's like, his eyes go crazy, and he's just like,
yeah.
I'm just like, what is he doing? This is very effective.
Yeah.
That's what I thought to myself.
I have to defend Paul Dano's Riddler. Paul, I called you Paul. Zach.
Yes.
Wait, projection. Oh my god.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, you first, then I'll go.
So I'm gonna say, like, I do think, like a lot of the actors in this, I don't think he's asked to do too much by this movie, but I think it's a good performance. I think especially in The Mask, in the first 2 acts, he's a very imposing force. I think some of his shtick does feel like it's sort of lifted from that one scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker sends that video to the news. A lot of the Riddler stuff in this kind of had a vibe like, why don't we tap into that, to me? But I think that's a thing that shows up in serial killer narratives too, so I'm not going to say they're just ripping that off. But he worked during those first 2 acts when he's a lot more nailed down for me. It's specifically once he's in Arkham that he kind of started to lose the appeal for me. Personally, because I really like the Riddler. And I think the Riddler too often gets played as this sort of like spastic, giggly character. I kind of like a Riddler, and we've seen them before, I kind of like a Riddler that's maybe a little more nailed down, a little more reserved, a little quieter, or something they do in The Long Halloween, which they don't do in this film, but I think is interesting, is in that the Riddler is like this bar-crawling, like, junkie who kind of just sort of sits in the corner, like, squirreling away to himself, which I think we get a little bit of this, but then it kind of seeps into Joker territory. It's iffy. It's not a performance that I dislike by any means, but it's a performance I look at and I go, I know Paul Dano could have done, or Dano, I think he pronounces it Dano, could have done, like, something different with this, and I maybe would have liked to see that.
Well.
I also see the Saw kind of thing, especially with that rat trap, was very,
the rat,
I don't say derivative, but it was kind of derivative, and it was effective, and especially for a PG-13 movie, I feel like it was really, like, that was perfect territory for that. Like, we really kind of want to go R, but we don't need to kind of feel with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was appropriate, the thumb drive thing, and yeah, I kind of see what you mean about the video thing being kind of similar, you know, every time, I don't know, what did he say? Somebody in Gotham dies or whatever? How does it go?
Somebody in Gotham does die.
No, like, what does Joker say? What does Joker say? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know. It's been a long time since I saw
prosthetic
the Batman.
on.
Yeah. Who knows?
No. Well, anyway. I was going to make a Riddler trophy joke, but that's okay.
Gosh. 99%.
We'll place another I'll place another Riddler trophy in an undisclosed location.
Oh.
I feel like this Riddler really does well with the laugh thing. I feel like he's trying to like put the puzzles and everything, and he gets overjoyed by it, and he's also kind of frustrated at the same time. And I just feel like he's conveying different emotions with kind of the persona that he's put up with, trying to like put puzzles in literally everything. And I feel like you can really do a lot there, and I feel like they did. But I do kind of think, I mean, especially if you're not like, if you don't really know how the Riddler is and other things, or you don't have enough experience with the Riddler, it kind of feels a little bit like Joker. But I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of hesitant to make that direct comparison, but I do kind of see what you mean. And I do feel like, you know, the Riddler having his own henchmen and stuff is kind of, you know, like, we kind of see that a lot with the Joker too. So I don't know. I feel like it works well with the movie, and I don't really feel like it's something that's, you know, so much of a direct comparison that it garners, like, it needs to be more original or something. I feel like it kind of fits the universe, and I do feel like he's his own character, especially with his acting capabilities. I feel like he's kind of got a wide range of being crazy, almost like, I mean, kind of beats Heath Ledger in a couple areas. Not to just outrage everyone in existence, basically, but I'm not a huge fan of Heath Ledger for a lot of things, and I feel like it's one perspective. It's one perspective. Okay. Joker is one perspective, and I feel like this is kind of the same thing. I feel like this is another way to do the Riddler, and I feel like it fits the universe very well.
Yeah, well said. I think it fits the setting of this film, and I mean, I see some oblique Joker similarities, but I don't think every crazy killer is automatically Joker-esque. I loved his performance. I think that it's a massive accomplishment to do what he did, especially since, I mean, for the first probably almost 2 hours, maybe not quite, but certainly the first half of the film, he's acting through a mask or through a mask and a phone screen. Mm-hmm. And there's like, he's doing so much.
Zoom PTSD.
Literally, yeah. It's like, and you guys know by now, we've talked about a lot of movies. I am totally averse to overacting. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of it. I tune out. It makes everything feel more artificial to me when somebody is really, really hamming it up, unless it's like very specifically to a movie's aesthetic or goal. And that was not an issue for me, despite like he does like all this like high whinnying and he like holds out this like sung tone when Batman reveals that he's not actually trying to help him when he sees him in Arkham. Like all this is stuff that would surely turn me off if it were any other actor. But I totally bought it. I thought it was tremendous. I was convinced. I've been on something of a Dano kick lately. Check out my Letterboxd if you want to see my thoughts on his other films.
In the link
Pro
below,
Letterboxd.
Smash that like button.
Yeah, if you guys want me to, on the Riddler trophy bit, I've been, I'm gonna let the audience behind the curtain here. I've been at 99% completion on Arkham Knight for, gosh, it's probably like almost 6 years now, maybe more. I have like a little over a dozen Riddler trophies left, and at some point I just like I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't. Mm-hmm. If we get let's say if we get like 10 comments on the YouTube edition of this, that's really high. I don't think it's gonna happen.
That's a real.
If we get 10 comments, that would be absolutely sick. All right, guys, we're gonna try to jump off a gargoyle today. We're gonna see if we can get 100,000 subs.
Hey guys,
if we get 100,000 subs, I will give out 10 free Teslas.
This will probably be my last video for a long time. Just want to say thanks for the support.
We broke up.
Yeah. I'd like to apologize.
I will finish Arkham Knight if we get 10 comments on our YouTube edition.
So, is that the one where the Riddler makes like racetracks that you have to do, or is that a later one?
Yes.
That was a couple of them. Yeah. Basically, they're just collectibles, and you have to like solve like little puzzles using your gadgets and perspective and detective mode and all that to figure out how to get to the trophy. That's it.
Oh, gadgets! Yeah. I like how the emblem is a batarang in this that he uses to cut things. Like it's functional. I like how everything on the suit is functional in this version.
Everything is very, very practical. And shoot, what was I gonna say? Oh, the combat is just like the free flow combat in Arkham Knight.
It literally is. Yeah,
it's just awesome.
It 100% is. Yeah. Yeah, and I was just like, I was getting kind of confused at first. Like, I mean, mentally in my head when he first started fighting, I was like, there's no track or anything. He's just punching them, and I was like, that's kind of cool. Yeah. It's just like it's realistic, you know. He's like, he's just going ham on him. I was like, all right, you know. It really preserves the moment, and having that wide shot and everything, I just feel like it gives you a full perspective of what it feels like, kind of to watch somebody beat the crap out of somebody.
Yeah.
You know?
And I also like that I mean, it's only year 2 for this Batman. So you get a feeling that he is kind of untrained. A lot of his combat is kind of just wailing on people, and he's not exactly like a precise ninja, which I think we see in other Batmen. And he's also not just this like stealthy ghoul who can go into a scene, take everybody out, and then immediately leave a scene again, like I thought we got with like the Keaton Batman. Like, he gets hit, he gets punched, he gets smacked in the back, he gets
shot
over.
like a million times.
Shot into the chest from like point blank.
He's a Batman that gets injured, and kind of makes it by the skin of his teeth in some cases.
Yeah, Yeah.
And then there's that adrenaline shot, and some people are like, "Is that Bane venom?" Ooh.
Oh god.
I have not
didn't
heard
think
that,
of that.
but yeah.
I kind of liked not knowing that it was Bane venom, honestly. If it is.
I don't think it is. I think they might make it that in like a later film if they keep making these, but like I doubt that Matt Reeves was like, and then he injects the Bane fluid. I have this plan.
Who knows?
This is stronger commentary than any episode of Euphoria when it comes to drug abuse. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not even kidding. All right, I'm outraging everybody today.
Yeah, you're really just yeah. Okay, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to try to hit on the score super quickly.
Okay. Yes.
It's fairly minimalistic. This is Michael Giacchino,
Nirvana.
who we know from Nirvana. Yes. Giacchino did Incredibles, did Rogue One, did Mission Impossible, did a lot of other stuff. I've heard a lot of people liken the Batman theme to the Imperial March because it's just the one opening interval.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I get it, but
Yeah.
like, I love John Williams, but he doesn't own that interval. Like, I didn't really care. And I
Christian, John Williams, he doesn't own it.
Okay,
It's
I am
fine.
gonna say, Christian, if this
And
was
I-
any other movie, I think you would go, they just ripped off John Williams.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, maybe. But I really liked Selena's theme. That was the theme that I connected with. Everything else was kind of just like fine function for me. But yes, that's my bit.
They could have overplayed something in the way a little bit too much, like once too many times maybe, but I don't know. I think it works.
I love that Bruce is
Equal.
actually listening to the song in the Batcave. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yes. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah, no, I think it totally works for the vibe, and even towards the end, and even when things get picked up, I do feel like it can still hold there, and I just feel like that's Kurt Cobain. But
Yeah.
go ahead, Zach.
I mean, I do like that this is a Batman movie with a kind of wallpaper score. I think that most of our previous Batman films have had like these big like themes that you really remember, and I like that I can't really even hum this score. It just kind of worked for me in the moment. I kind of like that. I like a subtler soundtrack. The stuff that did bug me was, I guess it was Nirvana. I thought it was The Cure. I haven't listened to either band.
You thought it was The Cure, Zach.
thought it was
That
The
is
Cure.
God, did you hear the trailer?
that is pure
obviously
Kurt Cobain's voice. How
That
could
is-
you possibly?
I'm gonna admit I listened to a lot of music, but I haven't listened to Nirvana or The Cure yet. Like, so I don't even know what The Cure really sounds like. I just kind of know their like
Oh
visual.
gosh.
All right,
But I
think
do
I'm about to
think
play another song.
I'm going to agree with
Something
Mitchell.
in the way.
Okay, I'm going to agree with Mitchell that I do think they overplayed it maybe like one too many times. I don't know if I needed it like during the ending, because it felt sort of tonally at odds with what was happening, especially in the context of like where they played it elsewhere in the movie, where like the song then reminded me of like things are terrible in Gotham, and we see Batman like encouraging this woman as she's like helicopter lifted out of this place. That felt a little awkward, and it felt a little bit just like we're bringing it back, and it didn't quite work for me. But I liked how it had subtler music than past Batman movies.
Sure, I agree with both of you. Okay, let's go to our final thoughts, and I
Okay.
would like to go first here. I think my favorite thing about this movie is its willingness to subvert what it sets up. So we all had this viral moment when we were all still at home. I think this was 2020.
Viral. Wow.
Yeah.
that was
No. Come on. Let me use words, Mitchell. You stop it.
We'll see where this is going.
When the DC fandom trailer for the Batman dropped, and everyone went freaking insane because there's a moment where Batman's wailing on the dude, and then he's like, "I'm vengeance." Everyone's like, "Yeah, he's vengeance. Heck yeah, that's my Batman. This guy gets it. Yeah." But the moral of this movie is that he can't be vengeance. Vengeance is not enough. He needs to be more. He needs to be hope.
He needs to be. Oh, I was gonna
Yeah, sorry.
Hope.
But I love the willingness to just like throw this like sort of underdeveloped audience perception of Batman back in their face to force the viewer to grapple with the idea that Batman is not just like this, I don't know, this like dream of punching and like there has to be more, and he needs to be more morally complicated than just a guy that wails on criminals. And so I really appreciated that twist. I didn't anticipate it. I thought it would lean into the sort of like anti-hero feel of the vengeance, despite the no-kill rule. And I was really grateful for Reeves for closing, and I think he understood that he was subverting what we all thought Batman, what we all maybe wanted Batman to be after seeing that first trailer.
And it's bookended by the two narrations, which another thing Chris Stuckman mentioned is the narration is a very bold choice, because that could go bad very quickly with Robert Pattinson. Yeah. And I feel like they work in the score there, and I feel like it you know, you can definitely tell there's a change, you know, a coming of age kind of thing. You know, the change in status quo, as it were, for the hero's journey at the very end. And I totally feel like it works. And I feel like he's just going to join the National Guard or something, because he could be a great humanitarian guy.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of heard my overall thoughts. One other thing that I wanted to mention, there were some weird shots in this where it felt like it was moving too quickly. I don't know if that happened in your theaters. Maybe it was just a corruption of the file that they sent to mine. But there were scenes in this where I thought it looked like it was shot in a different frame rate, and maybe they, like, when he lights the flare and is leading them out, it looked like the smoke was moving too quickly, which made me think maybe they shot it for slow motion and then didn't end up slowing it down. It was weird. So that was kind of distracting. It happened also when he's like wrestling Selena away from Falcone, and it looks like they're like moving way too quickly for a second. That was a little weird. I might have to rewatch it to see if that happens on a second showing. But yeah, it's a good movie. It's a solid movie. 3 out of 5. I do recommend it if not, you're a comic book fan. It just didn't quite scratch my Batman itch like other movies have.
I think we've adequately revealed that this is a goober Zach 3 out of 5, and that despite his insistence on not giving it a 4, we're all on some level of agreement that this is an excellent film, a very well-made film.
This is a very well-made film.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It just for a 4 didn't sit right with me.
I'll speed run 4.5 out of 5. This is probably my favorite Batman movie. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Same.
And I think it does Batman justice. The answer is justice. And I feel like Robert Pattinson is a great Batman. I feel like a lot of the characters feel like early beginnings of their characters in the Batman DC universe, whatever the heck, New 52. God forsake, I don't even know how many freaking dimensions there are right now.
Please do quarter-vowels.
Yeah. Bloodhaven was a reference.
Yes!
Anyway.
I heard it.
I noticed that. I'm brain. I know stuff. All right. Yes. I think the cinematography is fantastic. I love the cinematography. It's probably, if I had to choose any one thing, I feel like the cinematography really sticks out to me. And I feel like it really makes things a lot more dramatic. And the lighting and the sets just look fantastic. I love every aspect of it. I feel like it really feels like a Gotham City that's a crappy city that Batman has to really grow into himself to be able to deal with and really kind of, you know, become the Bat, as it were. It's the Bat. And yeah, 4.5 out of 5. Really not a lot I would change with it, and I highly recommend it to basically anybody at all who's interested in this, and I feel like it really does what it's supposed to, and I'm looking forward to see what happens next, and praying that nothing goes down the pooper.
Okay.
Well, that's a great closer. Okay, I want to say, okay, real quick, we didn't mention Jeffrey Wright, but he freaking rocks.
Yes, Jeffrey Wright,
Very
great
solid
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm in a bit of a rush here, dear audience. So let's say instead of like a full-fledged week in review, maybe we can just each like mention something we've watched or consumed that we liked a lot in like 20 seconds. I watched In a Lonely Place, Humphrey Bogart, 1950, a terrific blend of suspense and romance. 5 out of 5. Freaking loved it. It's only like 90 minutes long and it's on Amazon Prime. Please go watch it. It's great.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Get out of here, Zach. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. 4 out of 5. Matt Reeves, definitely can see a lot of the parallels. You know, that movie would not be nearly as good if Matt Reeves wasn't directing it and Andy Serkis didn't scream a million times. And then after that, I was so excited. I was like, you know what else is good about these, still frames? Follow shots. Then I started watching Full Metal Jacket, because I haven't read that yet.
Nice.
Go ahead, Zach.
Okay. I re-listened to Pink Floyd's Obscured by Clouds. It's an album they did for the film La Baillie, I think it was right before Dark Side of the Moon. Underrated album, 3 out of 5. I recommend checking it out.
That was awesome. That was firing on all cylinders. Okay, and then it was time for one more chance to back Zach into a corner.
Oh my god.
And force him to spew his arbitrary nonsense.
Oh my
Yes.
gorn.
This is the Batman rundown.
The Batman.
The bat down.
The bat down, you might say. I'm very, very excited to berate Zach one more time.
All right.
60 seconds. Oh gosh, my timer's not a minute because we haven't done this in so long. Okay, 1 minute. Mitchell, I'll start us off this time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Robert Pattinson as Batman.
4 out of 5.
FaceTime bomb threats.
3 out of 5.
El Radalada.
3 out of 5.
No habla español.
2 out of 5.
Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle.
3 out of 5.
Disappointed Italian mobster is disappointed.
4 out of 5.
2 hour, 56-minute runtime.
3 out of 5.
Question mark lattes.
3 out of 5.
Barry Keoghan as Unseen Arkham Prisoner.
3 out of 5.
A Gothic Gotham.
4 out of 5.
Christine-inspired Batmobile.
4 out of 5.
Any circus somehow not doing mocap.
3 out of 5.
Paul Dano's Cracked Glasses.
3 out of 5.
Vengeance.
3 out of 5.
Hope.
3 out of 5.
Bad eyeshadow.
4 out of 5.
Batman canonically listening to Nirvana.
3 out of 5.
The Iceberg Lounge.
3 out of 5.
Zach Garrigus as Robert Pattinson.
4 out of 5.
Christian Maric as Bruce Wayne.
3 out of 5.
Mitchell Bardsley as Batman.
4 out of 5.
John
2
Turturro
seconds.
as Carmine Falcone.
4 out of 5.
Time! Beautiful.
Nice.
We just got through it.
Yeah, John
That was
Turturro was
good.
great. I wanted to mention him.
Yes, he was fantastic. I knew everyone was sleeping on him because everyone was talking about Colin Farrell and Jeffrey Wright, and I knew I knew that Falcone would be important when they brought him in. And he was.
I forgot
Yeah,
that
there's
he
one
was even
thing-
in it. He showed up
There's
and I
one
was like, "Is
thing-
that John Turturro?"
There's one thing we can totally agree on. The cast is literally just, I wouldn't change anything about it.
Yeah.
And
They're all
I think
just-
it does wonders.
definitely.
Yeah.
Wow, that was
Okay.
excellent. Wow. 1 hour of Batman content. We did it. Huzzah.
On episode 60, no less.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's
That's only
60
9
minutes
away
for episode
from-
60.
That's only 9 away
don't
from,
finish that sentence, Mitchell. Okay. This has been
Okay.
Koki Pocket, and this has been a podcast about film. This is not a new season, but maybe there will
No.
be a new season. You know, just
Maybe
yeah, you know.
we'll do a spin-off series.
We'll do it. We'll do a limited engagement with HBO Max. We'll keep you posted.
Yep.
Anyway,
Brownie pouch.
I'm Christian. That's Zach and Mitchell. And
Hi.
yeah,
Bye.
we're not what you deserve, but we're what the film podcast needs to be. I don't know.
All right. Goodbye.
Love you.